Fight Like a Warrior, real quick, I want to explain the idea behind our martial arts system and why it's the most effective system for helping you learn from the most experienced level of martial arts in the quickest way imaginable. So we call it the principle-based approach, but that's nice to hear. It doesn't really mean anything to you, though, without giving you some kind of explanation. So let me start with this. Most times when you go into a martial arts studio, you're going to learn, take a look at the board here, you're going to learn a technique. Okay, let's just pretend it's a little technique. And then you come into the next class and you learn another technique. And you learn another technique. And maybe another one. And maybe one from here, one here. Learn all these techniques. And it's very confusing and it takes a long time to catch on. Maybe you roll live and maybe they're great at instructing, but that's what's happening in your brain. It's all over the place. Okay? Now, some people take it a step further and they teach a series of techniques. That's nice because they all flow with each other. But even with that series, it's very difficult as a new person to learn all of this information and have it make sense and have it lead to actually doing martial arts. So that's why we came up, or I came up with months and months, I want to say years, of studying. And it all began with this concept of starting with the end in mind. I looked for the end result, which was in jiu-jitsu, a submission, and with a striking art, a knockout. What happens from that moment and then work backwards to boil down the fundamentals of all of martial arts, both striking and grappling. And then what we do is we use the technique, let's say an arm bar, as a model to learn the principle that makes all arm bars work. Okay, do you feel me? And once you know how all arm bars work, you don't need to learn 100 arm bars. You just do jiu-jitsu. So, without giving you too much more of an explanation, I'm going to just show you what those 4 categories of principles are. Okay, how much time do we have? 5 seconds? Really? Okay. Grab some different color markers. Okay, we have an end game attack. So that would be your knockout or your armbar. We have some type of evasion or escape. Okay, whether it's slipping a punch or shrimping out of a position. Now these, mechanically, what your body does, they fall under the same principles regardless if you're striking or grappling. Once you understand how they all work, you could do advanced movements without knowing they're advanced movements. Then we get into sweeping. Now I stick to the terminology sweeping because you're flipping the person over, but the same principle applies as you're putting a combination together and knocking someone to the ground. So, sweeping. And lastly, I have to make sure I have the right color markers here. Let's see here, attack, evasion, sweeping, and lastly, passing. Okay? So, the same thing that happens when you pass someone's guard in jiu-jitsu is the same thing you're doing when you're passing someone's guard in boxing or kickboxing in order to land a strike. And the same principles apply, the same tactics that go into both of them will help you accomplish the goal of winning the fight. And so instead of learning 100 different moves, what we're going to do is teach you 4 principles, and with just 4 techniques, you'll learn how to fight in any situation. Now, of course, we want to build on those fundamentals, and we want you to learn more and more techniques, but by learning the fundamentals first, it's going to be pieced together in your mind in a complete effective manner, and you'll see astounding results.